2 Kentucky Derby winners. I am very, very honored to be joined by trainer Doug O'Neill and jockey Brian Hernandez Jr. So thank you so much for joining me this morning. They do have a lot in common. Did you guys know each other before this morning? Have you met?
I've known Brian for a long time, but no, not really.
Doug, Brian, Doug.
Oh, we already got a special handshake and everything now. We're solid.
So just a little bit of a background on Doug O'Neill. He's on the cusp of 3,000 wins, more than $169 million in earnings his horses have accumulated, and he is currently 14th all-time on the earnings list. Brian is a seasoned and respected jockey amongst his peers with 2,600 plus wins and $146 million in earnings.
I borrow 100. Okay,
I have to talk to the wife.
Talk to the wife, he says. So Doug won his Kentucky Derby and Preakness in 2012 with I'll Have Another, and also in 2016 with Nyquist. And we all know Brian had a big day or a big weekend last year, the first weekend in May, as he piloted Torpedo Anna, the eventual horse of the year in the Kentucky Oaks, and Mystic Dan in the Kentucky Derby. And I mentioned the trophy is in the Oaklawn Hotel lobby.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. We stayed here a few weeks ago, and that was the first time my kids had come over to Oaklawn, so they went up and got to take pictures and everything with it. They thought that was pretty cool. As my oldest daughter was walking through the big room there, she goes, "Oh, look, there's the Derby trophy, Dad."
Looks familiar.
Yeah, exactly.
Doug has trained 5 Eclipse Award winners, won 5 Breeders' Cup races. Correct me if I'm wrong, please.
Sounds about right.
It sounds about right.
Yep.
Okay. 9 graded stakes with one of my favorite horses of all time, the Hall of Famer Lava Man, who was very, very special during his reign, who we were talking about thoroughbred aftercare on the barn tour. Some horses love retirement. He loved retirement so much he wanted to stay at the barn and become the trusted stable pony, and still got fan mail.
Yeah. No, he got a lot of love, which he deserved, and now he's at Old Friends there in Kentucky and getting a lot of love there as well. So, yeah, he was a legend as a racehorse and a legend as a barn pony, and yeah, he was about as close to a human as you're going to find.
And I think he would sometimes put his head into the office
Yeah.
at the barn, waiting for his daily treats, and he was a little needy,
Yeah.
which was okay.
Yeah.
He earned it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he'd walk down the shed road by himself, no tack on, open up the feed bin, feed himself. I swear to God. Oh yeah, no, he was amazing and just a real special horse, and we were blessed to have him around the barn for about 10 years, if not longer.
So I mentioned Doug trained 5 Eclipse Award winners. Brian actually won an Eclipse in 2004 as outstanding jockey and won the Breeders' Cup Classic on your 27th birthday on Fort Larned. What a birthday present.
Yeah, that was definitely something special. You know, we were at Santa Anita, and it was getting late in the evening, and to walking in a winter circle, and everybody was in the grandstand singing "Happy Birthday." It was I don't think you can make a better birthday present than that.
Especially with the purse of the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Yeah.
That was pretty sweet, too.
Yeah, that was a nice surprise as well.
Brian in 2024 became just the 9th jockey and the first since Calvin Burrell in 2009 to win both the Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks in the same year. Brian, if you had to use 3 words to describe that weekend, what would they be?
I mean, it's definitely unbelievable. You know.
No profanities. Can't use the F word, Brian.
It's a family show.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was just unbelievable. We went into Friday thinking we had a really big chance, and then when she dominated like she did, and going into Saturday, we were kind of quietly confident that if we got Mystic Dan the right kind of trip, that he'd be able to pull it off. And Doug knows. I mean, the Derby, it's a hard race to win. You need everything to go perfectly, and you need the right horse on the right day. And fortunately enough, last year we had the 2 right horses on the 2 right days.
That's great is certainly an understatement. What's the vibe and the pageantry? How do you contain your calmness in a situation like that?
I guess it's just something that you learn to, you know, with any time you're an athlete, you just kind of learn to deal with it, and and you step up to pressure situations like that. So you just kind of accept it and try to give them the best opportunity you can.
Doug, what about you? Because yours in a little different scenario. You have owners to answer to that pay the bills. How much pressure is it going into Kentucky Derby Day? Because it's like the week buildup. You've got Thurby, you've got the draw, you've got the walkover. What were those experiences like for you?
Yeah, pretty incredible. And like Brian said, you just got to have the individual to take you there. And so a lot of the nerves and all that stuff, you're kind of feeding off the horse you're with. And when you're around a horse that's a Derby winning horse, they just give off so much confident vibes that it's contagious, and you become a mirror of that horse. And yeah, you definitely walk around there like you're Mike Tyson for a week or so. And yeah, it's a pretty special feeling. Great environment, like here at beautiful Oaklawn. You know, the people around Louisville love their horses, love the races, and yeah, the tradition there around the Oaks and Derby is pretty priceless.
So Doug is currently based in Southern California, Brian in Kentucky.
There is still racing in Southern
There
California.
is.
Yeah, we got
Despite,
not this weekend,
No,
but
really?
yeah, it's a long story. But
Oh.
yeah, but it would pick back up
You'll have
next
to
week.
tell me that.
Yeah, yeah.
But speaking of, what are some of the unique challenges now in Southern California? Because it's a totally different animal than when I was out there, 15 years ago. What's the temperature?
Can people watch this back there? I might lose my
Nope.
stalls. Okay, good. It's okay. It's
What
still
happens at Oaklawn stays at
Amen.
Oaklawn.
I like that. It's still arguably one of the most beautiful facilities around. And but yeah, we're down to 3 days a week racing. A lot of turf racing, but it's still a great place to train. And because of the weather, we're able to train pretty much every day throughout the whole year. So I do feel like we have a little edge when we ship, because the horses are maybe a tad more fit than some other places. But yeah, I love it, and I keep hoping and praying that it'll turn around and we'll get the purses up and get a little bit more racing, more dirt racing out there.
So Brian, and no lack of racing in the Kentucky circuit. So you're here this weekend for Torpedo Anna. Is she the race mare of a lifetime?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, horses like her, they're hard to come by. And I was talking with Bill Mott about it the other day, and talking about how proud we are of her. And like he said, you get good horses like this, but you almost kind of forget about how many it takes to find this one really, really good one. You go through a lot of horses to find a really great one, and fortunately enough, we found a really great one.
You certainly found a great one's an understatement. Now, Doug, you've been around some of the best horses in the country. What horse surprised you the most with their development?
I would say probably I'll have another. He was a horse that seemed like a nice horse, but we thought he'd be a solid allowance type of horse. And got to thank Mr. Paul Redham, because he was coming off a shin injury, and he was training lights out as we were bringing him back. And he said, I'd like to run him into Bob Lewis, which was like a kid getting out of high school wanting to play for the Yankees. Like, nah, I don't think this is going to go very good. And son of a gun, if he didn't show up that day and won, and then he went on a little roll there. So he's probably the biggest shock in that way that I've ever had.
Brian, what's the biggest difference between you as a jockey 10 years ago and the jockey that you are today, would you say?
Just the experience of riding better horses and being out there every day and just getting the opportunities to ride better horses. When a good jockey can ride a bad horse and it's not going to make him any faster, but when you start riding these better races and these better horses, it makes the decisions come quicker and it makes things easier.
So there's no book about how to be a jockey. There's no book about how to be a trainer. A lot of them come up in the industry through family or work, building up their resume. Doug, how did you originally get in the industry? Because you're from Michigan? Not
state
a
of
lot of
Michigan.
horse racing in Michigan.
Ah, there was.
There was?
Yeah, that's kind of dried up a little bit. But I had my late father, Patrick O'Neill, good Irishman, like to support the windows at every racetrack in the country. And he exposed me to the sport as a younger person and fell in love with it. And when we moved from Michigan to California at age 10, I remember wanting to see Disneyland and maybe mountains or the ocean. And now the first weekend we were there, we went to Santa Anita. And I was like, wow. And it was before all the off-track wagering, so there was 50,000 people there. And, you know, Shoemaker was riding, Eddie Delahoo, all these top-name riders. So I fell in love with it right away. And then I had a basketball coach in high school who went to school with a trainer named Jude Feld. So Jude let me start coming to the barn area in high school, and as soon as I graduated from high school, I started working as a hot walker and never turned back.
It's like hook, line, and sinker
Yeah.
when you get around the horses.
All in. The only thing that shocked me at the time was it was 7 days a week at 4:45 in the morning. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, there are no sick days
Yeah.
in horse racing.
Yeah, but I loved it so much that there was nothing else I wanted to do. So I'm so grateful for Jude to give me the opportunity, and so far so good.
So horse racing is often generational, and that is the case with you. So tell us what your family back history is.
Yeah, my dad rode for like almost 30 years there in Louisiana, and during the summertime, they couldn't really afford a babysitter, so our babysitter was the backside of Evangeline Downs. So we kind of grew up on Kobe, my little brother, and I. We grew up on the backside there at Evangeline, and started galloping horses when I was about 13 years old for a trainer there named Dale Angel, and then it just kind of took off from there.
Growing up in the sport, what was your dad's mindset when you said, I want to be like you?
I mean, they never talked me out of it. The biggest thing, though, were both sets of parents. They told me that if I wanted to be a rider, I had to finish high school. That was kind of my mom's biggest thing, was I had to finish high school. So my senior year of high school, I started riding, and they let me take off of a week, Derby week, to go ride at Churchill, and I got to ride Derby week at Churchill, and then I went back and graduated high school, and then moved back to Kentucky after that.
I bet you were the coolest kid in your class.
Yeah, it was a pretty fun time.
Is there something in the water in Louisiana that produces great riders? Because there are so many riders from Louisiana that just have that spunk, that drive, and just that grit and grind.
For a long time, we had the bush tracks down there where guys can start riding when they're really young. Now that you've kind of gotten away from those, but now you have a lot of forums down there where kids can start getting on horses early. But you don't see as many riders coming out of Louisiana anymore, just because I don't think guys want to put as much work into it as you have to. You know, when, like, a lot of us coming up, we started getting on horses when we were 9, 10 years old, and you had to groom horses, take care of everything. You were there all morning long. So it's kind of racing down there it's not the same as it was now that you've lost the bush tracks and stuff like that. But I think what makes riders from Louisiana so good is just the work ethic and the wanting to be here every day.
Now, a lot of times in horse racing, we're very fortunate to have some amazing mentors. Who were some of the mentors for you in the jocks room that kind of took you under their wing?
I mean, when I first started riding, definitely my dad there at Evangeline. But when I very first started riding, I was actually riding at Delta Downs, and Shane Sellers was coming over every week to ride the stakes. And he told me, he said, look, after you graduate high school, you don't have to worry about anything. I'll have you set up with my agent here in Kentucky. Just show up at Churchill. And that's what happened. So when I got to Churchill, he had me set up with a great agent named Fred Amy. And he kind of took off, and we ended up winning the Eclipse Award that year. So Shane and Calvin Burrell and all those guys, Robbie Alvarado, they were all, when I first walked into the jocks room there at Churchill as an 18-year-old kid, they were there in the back corner and mentored me from day one.
So, Doug, same question for you. I know Jude Feld played a big role, but were there other trainers that you could go to or maybe get some help and support from?
Yeah, you know, I was blessed when I first started being in Southern California. The late, great Jack Van Berg was there, Bobby Frankel, Charlie Whittingham, Laz Barrera. I mean, it was a lot of it just shutting up and keeping your ears open and your eyes open and just watching, because success leaves clues, right? So I think so many of us trainers train pretty similarly, but there's a few little things you can take away from the successful trainers that can help you as you start building. And so, yeah, I was really fortunate to be around a lot of real successful trainers there in California.
That was a very good time.
Really
because,
was.
like you said, you had the Charlie Whittingham, you had Bobby Frankel, Ron McAnally. That was a different era than it is now.
It was incredible. And it's so weird. They all like race to get there to be the first one there in the morning. It's like, that's like, so they wanted to win. That was their very first race they wanted to win, and who's going to get to the barn area first, which, yeah. So it just, the work ethic, like Brian said, was strong back then, and it was good coming up and during that time.
How would you say Southern California circuit differs from other circuits around the country? I mean, you've shipped and run places. What's the comparison like?
There's top horsemen and top horses all over the country. So, I don't think there's anything different. The only thing I think maybe we have a little bit different is Mother Nature can be a little kinder to us at times. So you're able to train more consistently, and you don't have to ship around as much, and we've got a few horses in Kentucky, and oftentimes you're shipping around to the races. So in Southern California, you're able to stay at Santa Anita for most of the year, which is nice. And but other than that, it's top horses, top horsemen all around the country, all around the world.
Now, they did have to deal with something this past few months that I don't know of any other track that's really had to deal with, but the fires in Southern California. How did that affect racing or any of the horsemen in that community?
Oh, yeah. I know Mario Gutierrez, who rode both our Derby winners, his house completely was destroyed. And, yeah, there's a lot of people that lived around Santa Anita that had to evacuate. And so it was like the world was it was biblical. It was so crazy. And I had some friends that lived both in Altadena and the Palisades, and it was just, to see those areas just get ravaged it's still crazy. And Lord knows how long it's going to take to rebuild those communities.
Brian, coming up with your dad, knowing what he had to go through, what differences, say, in preparation would you compare from seeing your dad go through? Are there any similarities or differences?
Yeah, I mean, there's some similarities, but then at the same time, it's different as well, because they did a lot of night racing and stuff like that in Evangel. And in like his case, for years, he'd have to get up at 4 a.m. and go gallop horses, and then drive an hour and a half to Delta Downs and ride every night. Where I'm fortunate enough to where I'm fortunate I don't have to do that. We make a 30-minute drive to Churchill or a 25-minute drive to Keeneland, so it's stuff like that. I think it's just the time away from the family is what gets you more than anything.
What's the prep like mentally and physically to go through a day in the life of Brian Hernandez?
You just, like last night, sitting on the plane the whole way here, I sat there and read over all the form all night. And then when I got back to the room last night and had Wi-Fi, I was able to watch all my replays, and just, you prepare yourself for the day, and you want to be in the best mindset as possible. So you want to come in the days, especially days like today, where you're as prepared as possible, and you kind of have a game plan going into it.
So speaking of game plan, Brian will ride Horse of the Year, Torpedo Anna, in today's Grade 1 Apple Blossom Handicap. Her entire career, as her trainer Kenny McPeak says, she's never taken a bad step. She's never done anything wrong. She's professional. What is it that makes her, other than those things, just so great? Did you have that sense when you rode her last year in the fantasy that, oh, this is going to be a good one?
Yeah, because when in the fantasy here last year, she hadn't run in 6 months, whatever it was. And she just went around the turn there. And for a filly that hadn't run so long, you'd think that she'd kind of want to grind it out. But she turned for home and switched leads and took off again. And that's kind of when we knew that, it was her first race as a 3-year-old. So you're always worried about them stepping forward from 2 to 3.
Right.
And after she ran like she did in the fantasy, we kind of knew then that, hey, this filly, she stepped up her game. And looks like we can have a big year. I mean, you never expect to have a year like we had, but in the same aspect, we figured we had a really good filly.
Well, to say she had a big year is a major understatement, and horsemen all across the country became fans of Torpedo Anna. Her one loss, she ran against the boys in the Travers. Tell me about that day.
Yeah, I mean, she probably gained more fans in losing the Travers than she did in any of her other races, just because, you know, she was kind of up against it. We were down on the inside, and Fierceness kind of had the perfect trip outside. We got stuck behind Dornack a little ways around the second turn. And for her to re-rally like she did, because when I tipped her out, she had every right to just kind of throw in the towel, and she didn't. You know, she dug back in, and she re-rallied at Fierceness and just came up a neck short.
So there's no doubt in my mind that when the time comes, she will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I had the honor of voting for you for the Hall of Fame. Doug is on the ballot.
Checks in the mail. Checks in the mail.
Checks in the mail. So I actually had the honor of voting for you. Doug is on the ballot for the National Museum of Racing and Hall of Fame. What would that mean? I'm going to wait for the tractors to go by real quick, or the water truck, excuse me, till we continue. That's a good handicapping angle that they're putting water on the track too. Doug, you're in the company of some of great names in racing. What would that mean to you? And I know they say it's an honor just to be nominated, but what would that ultimately mean to you?
It would be pretty crazy, and it's a result of having an unbelievable crew for this whole time, and I have so many of the men and women who I've worked alongside with for years, where we've stayed together, and just having so many great owners and so many great horses. So it's really just, it's been a long run, and hopefully there's more to it coming up, but yeah, it'd be pretty incredible, and like you say, it's such an honor to even be nominated, so it's hard to even put into words what it would be like if we ever got in.
So I had the honor of working with Doug several years ago at Hollywood Park, where I was stall man. And yes, I do say stall man because you have to have some cojones to do that job, especially at that level. But that meant that I
didn't cause you any trouble, did I?
None.
Good.
You were one of the few. I got called everything but a white woman when I was in that job. But one of the things that you had to do, you dealt with roughly more than 100 different personalities. And as a trainer, you deal with all these different personalities, not only from your barn, but owners as well. How do you coordinate all of that? Because it's from sun up to sundown, and there are no sick days, as we say.
Yeah, I think it's just trying to be relatable, and you know, I can relate to the hot walkers, to the grooms, and then you know, with the owners, you just got to be really grateful that they're, you know, paying all the bills. So it's really just a matter of trying to relate to everyone, and you know, we all have our grievances, and we get upset at certain things. So as your staff or your owners are upset, you just got to listen and try to come up with a solution or change things up a little bit. So I think just trying to dance with everything and not be combative, and just realize it's a privilege to be in the sport. It's not something, you know, that you're given. So.
And you're very mild-mannered, kind of have that laid-back SoCal vibe. I've never seen you, like, kick a feed tub down the shed row or, you know, slam a stall door.
I have some issues. I've had my moments, but yeah, it definitely, you won't last very long, I think, if you act like that. And so, yeah, fortunately, I don't do that very often.
Brian, I like to say that I compare thoroughbreds to bears. Some are teddy bears, some are grizzlies, like on your hat. And they all have their own distinct personalities, just like us. What is the key to, because you might ride 10 different horses every single day, what's the key to knowing what each horse needs individually? Because that's a gift.
I think it's just something that you learn over years, but you always got to tell yourself in the back of your mind that, you know, I'm a 115-pound guy. I'm never going to outmuscle a 1,000-pound animal. So you just got to learn each individual horse, just like people. You learn each individual horse, and try to figure out what makes them tick. And that's the biggest thing. You just got to, we're all out here for the same thing. Everybody wants to win, and you want to try to give that horse the best opportunity for the owner that's paying the bill. So you got to kind of learn on the fly and figure out what makes a horse tick more than anything.
Well, there's a lot of things that make horses tick. And Anna, Torpedo Anna, has been given the name of the Grizzly. And I asked Kenny McPeak, how in the world did that come about? And prior to the Kentucky Oaks, a reporter had asked him something about, what do you think your shots are? And he says, well, they better bring, what was it? They
better bring a bear because
I'm bringing a grizzly, something like that. But she is like such a cool, mild-mannered filly. It's almost like she knows, because we've taken her picture numerous times, and when she sees a camera, it's like she has a good side.
And Doug can attest to this. That's a sign of good horses. When you get really good horses that are really intelligent, they know they're good. And that's her thing. Even from last year to this year, when her first couple races last year, she'd get a little warm in the post parade and stuff like that. Whereas later on in the year last year, she started settling in and just figuring it out. As racing went along, she started figuring out more and more about her job. And like I said, that's what makes really, really good horses, is they know what to do and what's expected of them.
I mean, she's easily going to go off as the favorite. She's been the favorite every race. What's the scenario today? Because there's no such thing as a sure thing in racing.
No, definitely. Like you said earlier, Kenny said she's never stubbed her toe or anything like that. Well, let's hope it's not today either. We just have to go out there and give her, let her do her thing. That's the nice thing about it, is that we can entrust in her that she can deliver, and I just got to be a passenger more than anything.
And just hang on.
That's it. That's the ones you always look for, the ones that you just hang on.
So Doug is obviously a fan of Torpedo Anna, but he's here on work reasons. He has Anarchist in the Grade 3 Count Fleet Sprint Handicap. He's a speedy son of a gun. Comes off of a finish in the third off the layoff, and a fifth in the Grade 3 San Simeon, which was over the turf at Santa Anita. Tell us a little about Anarchist.
Yeah, he's a pretty honest horse that I think his best distance is 6 furlongs. I think his best surface is a dirt. He travels well. He took us to South Korea, of all places, and ran a real respectable third. So he's training well. Obviously, Steve Asmussen's got a bear in there, a grizzly, and a horse named Booth. So Booth's going to be hard to beat, but at least we're outside of him, and we're going to give it a try. But he has shipped in well. He's training well. He had a little jog this morning on the track today. He's moving great. So I think we got a chance.
So he just mentioned South Korea. You've ridden all over the world. Where is one of the most unbelievable places that you've gotten the opportunity to ride?
Probably Santa Anita. That was probably the prettiest racetrack I'd been to. The first time I got to go there, I was like, wow. Because you witnessed it all those years as a kid, watching it on TV, but to actually be there at Santa Anita for the first time, that was probably the eye-opening spot.
Doug, you've been literally all over the world, and I wasn't even privy that there was racing in South Korea until I looked at the past performances of Anarchist. What's racing like in South Korea?
It's actually pretty nice. It's the closest thing I've seen. It's almost like a little mini Santa Anita. The track there, it's right in the foothills. It's got a beautiful little mountain view right behind the track, and the South Koreans love horse racing. They love baseball and horse racing, so God bless them. We got that in common. And they treated us really, really well, and it was first-class accommodations for the horses as well. So it was a really good experience, and if we got invited with another one, I wouldn't hesitate.
So both of these gentlemen have won the biggest race in the industry, the Kentucky Derby, once as of now. What's another race that you're chasing?
I mean, probably the first today, but every race, you want to go out there and win every race, but to win another Derby, that'd be amazing. I mean, to say you won one, but it's with anything, when you do it once, you want to keep doing it again. So yeah, to win another Derby is probably the goal.
So going into this year's Kentucky Derby, do you have prospects? Tell us about those.
We have Burnham Square. He actually won the Bluegrass Tuesday. Now my days are all messed up because we've been racing since last Sunday at Keeneland, and he's actually he's by Nyquist.
Okay.
He jumped up. It's a Mrs. Whittam homebred for Ian Wilkes, and I used to ride the mother. We won a couple great races on the mom, and he jumped up and won the Bluegrass on Saturday. He's the Derby points leader right now, so we're excited about him.
Doug, in addition to Anarchist, who are some of the big names in your barn?
Well, we got a horse named Raging Torrent, who just won the Godolphin Mile in Dubai. Horse named Mixto ran second in the World Cup.
I love how nonchalantly he says, yeah, we won the Godolphin Mile.
I was trying to
That's
remember
a
the name of the
big
damn
deal.
race. Yeah, no, it's he would be those two would be the leaders for sure. Hopefully Anarchist today jumps into that mix as well. But yeah, you're been in the game for a while when horses going towards a Derby, you've trained, and being like Brian said, he's got a son of Nyquist, and then Michael McCarthy's got a journalism who's out of a Mopatism who we trained. So that's kind of cool. And yeah, hopefully we'll get lucky and we don't have anything this year, but hopefully next year we'll have a Derby or Oaks contender.
When you see these horses on the track and you look at the pedigree and you're like, oh, I rode the dam, I rode the sire. When you look at them, do you see similarities?
In Burnham Square's case, yeah, you see a lot of similarities because he's a little bit quirky, and his mother was that way. She used to, when she decided to want to go somewhere, she'd just take off with you, and you were out of control. But when she was racing, she was very, very forward. And he's kind of that way too, where he's kind of wants to not run through the dirt and just a little quirky about things. So they kind of push it off onto him.
Same question for you, Doug. Do you see those similarities in some of the horses that you've trained in the past?
Yeah, you do. Though the Nyquist seemed they run dirt, turf. They win on the front end. They come from behind. He was such a brilliant, fast horse who had a lot of stamina, and yeah, I think Mario would say he just had to hold on.
Just hold on.
Just hold on. He would take you there, and felt like he would never stop. So he was a brilliant, brilliant horse.
Now, racetrackers eat, sleep, breathe horse racing. The barn crew becomes your family. The guys in the jocks room become your family. Brian, what's a rare day off for you look like?
Rare day off is being back at the farm. I was actually just off on the phone with my wife, and she goes, "Oh, you better hurry up and get back home. We got to mow grass." So that's.
I won did you say I won the Kentucky Derby and the Oaks last year? I ride the horse of the year.
That doesn't get you very far in my house.
Does your son have aspirations of being a jockey?
Oh yeah, definitely. All three kids, they show jump, and actually my oldest daughter and Jamie, they're on their way to a horse show now. But about once every couple months, she drives them down to Aiken, South Carolina, and they do pony racing there. So
those ponies can be a little crazy.
Yeah, they've got a couple of them there back at the house that get a little wild, but they manage to handle them some kind of way.
Do you ever get on any, or are you just like, no, I've aged out of the pony division?
Yeah, no, and I always tell my wife when I get home I don't even want to go to the barn, so that's kind of her gig. I'll help her cut the grass, but horse aspect that's on her.
Doug, what about you? What's a rare day off? Because there's so many options of things to do in Southern California.
Yeah, nothing real specific actually. Maybe a lot of taking naps, and unlike Brian, I like to eat. Brian, you probably like to eat too, but you gotta be careful what you eat. And a nice adult beverage from time to time doesn't hurt anybody.
In honor of your dad?
Yeah.
Good Irish.
Pat O'Neill, got to do it. Yep. Oh, he used to always say he only drank twice a week, once for 3 days and once for 4 days. I was like, Dad, that's every goddamn.
Use that?
Yeah.
That's pretty ingenious.
Oh, good Irishman.
So it's the elephant in the room that I have to ask just because I had a passion for it. Where do you see California racing in 5 years? And again, what's said at Oaklawn stays at Oaklawn.
Well, I think the roots are strong enough. It can survive the current situation it's in. I, my nightly prayers are someone will come in and buy it and take some different paths with it. But I think it's strong. It's going to survive. But I feel so bad for all the Northern California people. That was so horrible. But I'm hoping in 5 years it's owned by different people and it's running 4 days a week and it's strong.
Now, obviously, Kentucky racing is going nowhere anytime soon, but one thing that has changed the last couple of years is the riding crop. It has changed tremendously, not only the crop itself, but also the rules of the riding crop. You can now only use it 6 times during the running of the race, regardless of the distance of the race. Did that change many guys' riding style at all in yours?
Oh yeah, definitely. It took a little bit of time to have the learning curve. Of only being able to use it 6 times. But at first, nobody really liked it. But then once you get used of it only 6 times, everybody's kind of gotten in the groove of it. But then honestly, it seems like it's made the races safer, really, because now you don't have guys out there just pounding on a horse that's stopping and weaving all over the place. It's made guys to where now you actually have to kind of pick your reins up and steer them rather than just use the whip to steer them around there. So, like I said, when it first went in the place, you didn't really like it, but then as you've noticed, the races seem to be a little safer. So it's probably a pretty good rule.
So would you say that's one of the main changes or adjustments that's happened during your career?
That and just all the different safety efforts. When I first started riding, you used to be able to just wear whatever helmet you wanted and safety vest and stuff like that. As now with the new rules and stuff like that, they've really upped all this safety equipment. So that's that, and also the having to do the physicals and the concussion testing. That's another big thing. We have to, every rider, in order to get approved to continue riding each year, you have to go through a safety protocols where they check you for concussions and everything, and that's huge. That's helped a lot of guys, I believe.
Is there concussion protocols for trainers, Doug?
God, there'd be no trainers around if there was. We all do a lot of 50-yard dashes and 40-yard gyms. We all have some head injuries. But no, like Brian said, I think the sport has evolved in a much safer way, knock on wood. And it took a lot of us, we were fighting it initially, all the different from the barn area checks that they do all the time to the riding and stuff. So it's been beneficial, I think, the end result.
Brian, I know a lot of young people aspire to be jockeys, to get into the industry. What advice would you give them about becoming a rider?
Find a guy like Doug that has a lot of horses and just go to the barn every day. Just be there. That's what, when I first started riding, I was riding a lot of horses for Hal Wiggins. And the only time Mr. Howe would ever get mad was when a jock was late for a worker. So I told him one morning, I said, Mr. Howe, as long as I'm here 10 minutes early every time, I never have to worry about getting fired. You just, like I said, just be present. If you're there, somebody's going to give you an opportunity eventually. Just show up every day.
Doug, what about you? What advice would you give to somebody that does want to take out a trainer's license? Because, now the younger generation, they want to be bosses. They want to be CEOs. They want to be in charge of everything. But that's not how it works at the barn. There's a hierarchy.
Yeah, I would encourage anyone who's interested to go for it. And, I think being able to work alongside horses for a living is a beautiful thing. You're outdoors, but it does require a lot of work, a lot of patience. It can be frustrating, but, I think one of the beauties of our sport is you have people that come from nowhere and you got people that are super successful and, everyone's going after the same thing, trying to get that horse that wants to separate itself from the pack and become a top athlete. So, no, I encourage, we get a lot of people from University of Arizona will come over to San Anita and Del Mar, and I'm constantly trying to encourage them to get involved. We need more young people involved and to help continue to grow the sport.
What do you think that tracks can do to get that younger generation not only in the doors, but keep them coming back?
I think I always push for better dormitories. You know, if they had, Santa Anita had some really top-notch dormitories, I think you'd have a lot of people that would work in the barn area as they're going to college or trade school and get their feet wet. I think you'd have a lot of opportunities to get a lot of men and women heroes who are military that are retired that would work alongside the horses. So I think better dormitories would open the door for a lot of people to inquire about the great sport.
Interesting. Brian, you are raising race fans. What do we need to do to get a younger generation in the doors?
It's a tough question. I think just introducing them to the game, you know, and just having them come out with the family and enjoying the races, I think, you know, and we all, you know, here at the races, we all try to do our part to interact with the fans and just make it for a better experience, especially for kids. Even like now Derby time's coming around, so we'll go to the kids' school here next week probably and just show them about racing and just little things like that, you know, just you try to get more people out to the racetrack more than anything.
Obviously, you've come in for the big day, you the grade 1 Apple Blossom, you the grade 3 Count Fleet. Other than a potential paycheck, what makes Oaklawn so special?
The fans probably, and even just being here. You guys love your races. You know, you go to places like Keeneland, you get big crowds every day, but you know, like I spend the winters down there at the fairgrounds down in New Orleans, and we get a crowd every day, but we don't get every weekend crowds like you guys get. So it's fun to come here and interact with the fans and just see how much you guys love racing here.
Doug, same question. Other than a potential paycheck, what makes Oaklawn so special?
Yeah, I think like Brian said, you know, the fans and the locals, it's, you know, you see a lot of the restaurants with the marquees saying welcome, you know, racetrackers and stuff. So just a very welcoming community. Management, you know, take care of the horsemen here too. So it's just a great all-around experience, and so love coming here whenever we get an opportunity.
So are both of you staying in the hotel?
I am.
Not this week.
Not this week,
No.
but you have stayed in the
Yeah, we stayed
hotel.
there.
What's it like to open up the blinds and see training take place?
It's fun, you know. Like you said, you're able to just kind of look out the window and watch horses go by. The only reason I stayed here a couple weeks ago because the wife came with me, and for some reason she's just got to go to the spa every time she comes to Hot Springs.
Well, it's Forbes 4-star recommended. If you didn't know.
That's what I've been told.
What about you, Doug? What's it like to come to a destination like Oaklawn, open the curtains, and just see these amazing equine athletes?
It's pretty awesome, pretty special, and I donated a couple $100 at the Ultimate Texas Hold'em thing too. So just no, it's an unbelievable hotel, and like you say, to look out on the racetrack, it just shows you how Oaklawn has evolved into a world-class racing facility, and credit to them. And so special track and special day today.
Final question. What is something that we would be shocked or surprised to learn about Brian Hernandez Jr.?
I probably don't have much balance when I'm walking around.
You know what? That is not uncommon for people that ride a lot. That's great. Doug, what about you? What's something that most people would be just, oh my gosh, to find out about you?
You know, with a last name like O'Neill, at least in California, there's a lot of surf gear and stuff. I can barely swim. So, I mean, I can survive. If somebody throws me off a boat, I could probably survive. But you wouldn't see me on any kind of like swim team or anything. So maybe that could be.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it is a true honor to sit next to these two gentlemen. Both have won the signature race in horse racing. Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Hernandez Jr. and trainer Doug O'Neill. Give them a round of applause.